drift away from me, feeling my mind.
Ladies and gentlemen, live from the Omni building in beautiful Euclid, Ohio, it's Cleveland Sports 360 with your host, my man LG. Today on the show, no other than former NFL corner, my man Anthony Dorsett. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, here he is, LG.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cleveland Sports 360 show, coming at you live from the 4th floor of the Omni building right here in beautiful Euclid, Ohio. I want to let you people know this Thursday night, the NFL Draft Party with StreamingSportsTalk.com right here around the back of the building at the lower level at Winners Bar. We're going to have our NFL Draft Spectacular. Come on out, have a cold one. Listen to what LG Kenyon Johnson and the beautiful Miss Kenya Huff and the sports genius Alex White. I'm losing it, Alex White.
What the hell you call him? Alex White.
Alex White, the Indians pitcher.
Alex
Hale, the sports genius, folks. You know, I'm excited about the draft, Kenyon, and I'm in an excited mood about Anthony Dorsett Jr. joining us live tonight to preview not only the NFL draft, we're going to find out what his thoughts are to Gregg Williams and the tape coming out. We haven't got to talk to Anthony Dorsett since that tape.
And I'm quite sure you're going to mention today with the general manager of the Saints coming out saying that he had built an actual speaker in the Saints suite eavesdropping on the opposing team's coaches for 3 years. This came out today. He's about to get kicked out of the Saints. The Saints are in total dismantle right now.
There's nothing sacred about the Saints. I mean, you might as well call the team the Devils because they're certainly not Saints. That's what's coming to light now. But, you know, I think he had the speaker installed, Kenyon, so that he knew how much money he was going to have to pay these guys at the end of the game, man. I don't think it had anything to do with just eavesdropping on the coaches. But, you know, ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Dorsett Jr. played for Gregg Williams for a number of years when he was with the Titans. He first went to the Houston Oilers. Then they moved to Tennessee. So Gregg Williams was the coach when Anthony Dorsett played for the Titans. And he had first knowledge of how this man's defenses ran. So not only are we going to get a look inside the NFL draft coming up Thursday night, 8 p.m. from Radio City Music Hall, we're going to ask Anthony Dorsett Jr. what he thinks about the NFL Bounties and if he thinks Gregg Williams' punishments may be a little bit too harsh. Do we have him on the phone yet, Kenyon? Anthony Dorsett Jr., thank you so much for joining the Cleveland Sports 360 show. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you, brother. How you doing today?
We're doing fantastic. How's everything down there in Dallas, man?
Man, we're having a nice sunny day, actually, so it's all good.
Well, you probably got the warm weather, too. We're not too warm. Hey, Anthony, when you get over by the Cowboys complex, if you ever get around there, make sure you stop in and see my buddy, Lawrence Vickers, the newest Dallas Cowboy. He got let go from the Texans after the playoff, and now he's a Dallas Cowboy. So I told him, look for your dad's shirt hanging up in that building somewhere, I'm sure, right?
Oh, yeah, he got his jersey up, of course, in the facility, the practice facility. He got all kind of stuff over there, and even in the new stadium, depending on what floor you get off on, there's this big wall. As soon as the elevator opens up, you don't see nothing but his eyes out there. It's like a big wall of eyes, basically, you know, with a face and a helmet. So he's all over the place as well as in the Ring of Honor where nobody can miss him, man. So there you go.
You know, I forgot to tell you, we should have had your dad join you on this show, but sooner or later we're going to have the great Tony Dorsett and Anthony Dorsett at the Cleveland Sports 360 show at the same time. You can arrange that, right, Anthony?
It's nothing but a phone call away.
Yeah, next time we're going to have to do that. I remember we talked about it on our first meeting. So, Anthony, a lot of things have been happening since we last talked. A lot came forward with this New Orleans Saint Bounty Gate, and they released the tapes on the Gregg Williams, who you used to play for with Tennessee. Give us your thoughts. What do you think about all of that?
Man, honestly, I think that, the punishment that was handed down to Gregg was pretty harsh. But I know that, Commissioner Goodell wanted to make an example out of in itself, but at the end of the day, it's just the nature of the beast, defense coordinator as well as the offensive coordinator or any coach that will go into a game reiterating who's hurt, what's hurt on them, and everything else like that. So, when people heard that whole tape and everything else that got out like that, man, I mean, come on, that's common knowledge. We want to know what's going on with this guy. If he's hurt, if it's his head, if it's his shoulder, if it's ankle, whatever. We want to know what injury he has. You know what I'm saying? And it's just part of the game. You're going to target some of those areas.
So every week before any game, you guys always got a rundown of what kind of injuries NFL players might be a weak point for them before the game started. Is that correct?
Oh, come on. I mean, it's just like with anybody else. If you guys follow fantasy football, what are these fantasy football fanatics doing? They're trying to find out who's hurt and everything else like that just so they can get their points up. Okay, well, just flip the script. We're trying to find out who's hurt just so we can know how to prepare for a game and how to go into a game.
So do you think that any of this got blown out of proportion, Anthony, as far as,
I think it all got blown out of proportion in a lot of ways, okay? It's like one of those kind of things. There's a code of ethics in every profession. Some of it is spoken, some of it is not spoken. There's certain things about radio and everything else like that that the common person just would not know. And there's certain rules and guidelines that you guys just follow. It's the same thing with football. This whole thing that's called a bounty or whatever they like to call it, it has been going on since the inception of football, basically. Pop Warner kids, that's how they get stickers on their helmets. You want to get some more stickers on your helmet this week? Score some touchdowns, get some big hits. It starts at that level, and so at the end of the day, you have to understand this is something that was more so governed by players than any coach ever.
Absolutely.
This is something that this is something that we did as incentives for ourselves to play better, as incentives for younger guys who don't make a lot of money to actually be able to make some more change and things like that. So it's like with anything else. When the conservatives get their hands on some prudent information that of course, everyone hasn't played the game, and regardless if you're the commissioner or not, if you've never strapped it up between those white lines, it's just certain things that you just don't understand.
Well, obviously, Goodell has no knowledge of what takes place during a football game. He's never suited up and went out on the field. But let me ask you a question. Interesting enough, I believe Kenyon's going to have a question for you too. But I already saw that Gregg Williams and his people already started the reinstatement process, man. So that looks pretty promising, don't you think?
I mean, he would be, honestly, Gregg is a good coach. You know what I mean? Like you said, I had the chance to play under the guy for several years in Tennessee. He's a good coach. Don't let what you hear in the soundbite the night before the game, trying to get guys amped up, riled up as possible to go play in the game to try to get them to the Super Bowl. Don't let that be the way that you judge this man's character. You know what I mean? And then for that matter, like how many people have actually ever heard any other defensive coordinators do a speech before a game? That right there is privileged information that whoever actually leaked it out. You know what I mean? Like there's people like that who don't respect the integrity of the game.
Yeah, we're speaking here with Anthony Dorsett, former defensive back in the NFL. Most of you guys probably remember him with the Raiders, the Titans. I mean, just a beast. But Anthony, I got to ask you, man, you say what you want to say about the Bounties. It looks like the NFL is really going hard on the New Orleans Saints. I don't know if you heard the news today. Their general manager, Mickey Loomis, I guess he got caught eavesdropping, being nosy, having, tape recorders in the suites of the visiting teams. What's going on, man? Is this something when they find little things about a team that they just go all in?
Okay, now you're saying that they got caught. Is this something like Spygate, basically with the Patriots?
Exactly. They said for 3 years, Mickey Loomis, it just came out about an hour ago, Mickey Loomis for 3 years eavesdropped in the opposing team suites, learning their offensive plays, learning their offense and defensive drives, several things. So it seems like they're going real hard in on the New Orleans Saints. I mean, this whole thing is starting to fall apart here.
You know, Kenyon, we saw the same thing happen with Tattoo Gate and the Ohio State Buckeyes. I mean,
right.
It's almost like they called in a proctologist to do an examination to see what else they can dig out. No, really, they wanted to dig out everything on these guys, man.
Now, you know, it's one of those kind of things like this, like honestly, and you know, and we as teams notice whenever we go into a opposing stadium and say we have to do a walkthrough the day before. You know what I mean? There's always film up. There's always video going. We know that we're being watched. We know that we're being listened to. You know, and it just goes on to, well, it's not a knowing thing. It's more or less like, let's assume that, you know, okay, while we're out here, that they're actually going to be watching. Let's assume that if we're in the facility, they're actually going to be listening. I mean, it just comes with the territory. I don't even think it's a thing whereas people actually consider that cheating. You know what I mean? We just look at it like we're not in our house right now, so if you're not in your home, you know, you're not safe.
So everybody thought it was just Bill Belichick that invented that little bit of spying, but here it's been going on for years as well. Is that about right, Anthony?
Come on, man. Nothing is new to the game except the players every year.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
man.
It's like this thing has not changed. You know what I mean? It's what is going on now is that the accessibility to athletes and everything that goes on through social media network and everything else like that has just torn down the walls of where like an athlete was hard to get at. You couldn't approach an athlete in a lot of areas unless you saw him. Now everyone has Twitter, Facebook, whatever, and you know the athletes are a lot more approachable. They're a lot more, I guess you could say, accessible to people.
Which is absolutely the truth. Now, going back to this Spygate or this guy being caught eavesdropping, I mean, what can they really do to somebody for that, Anthony? I mean, give you a little slap on the wrist. Certainly, they're really making the example out of Gregg Williams. I mean, I can't see him doing much for eavesdropping. What is your thoughts on that?
I mean, with the whole thing that happened with the Patriots back in the day with the Spygate thing, and you know, I can't remember exactly what their punishment was, but you know, like, and this is a joke, but it's somewhat true. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. You know what I mean? And so, you know, that's one thing that, you know, we don't try to live by that. You know, of course, we all try to stay as clean as possible when we're doing this, but it's no different than playing in the game, sitting back, and you have a guy out there on the field, whether it be like, you know, what player it is, and his whole thing is to listen for audibles. Okay, first half, get the audibles down. He did this against Peyton Manning when he was with the Colts and I was with the Raiders. First half of the game, they go up 21-0 on us. Peyton Manning is audibling the crap out of us at the line. Okay, well, me and Gregg Beekert, you know, by the time halftime comes along, we know what the audibles are. So we go in the locker room, we're calling out the codes, we're calling out the numbers, we're calling out the colors, we're calling out everything, letting everybody know what it is. Second half, we win the game 28-24. So, you know, I mean, it can take place on the field, it can take place in the meeting room, but at some point in time, you know, that information is going to be attained somehow.
Well, to me, that's nothing more than like trying to steal signs in baseball. I mean, we all did it growing up playing football. We always tried to hear what the other huddle was saying. We always tried to see what the signs were in baseball. We tried to steal what the coaches were doing. It didn't matter what sport we were playing. We always tried to figure out what the opponent. I mean, that's part of the chess match right there, man. If you can figure it out, it's more power to you. You know, Anthony, I read an interesting thing today. They were talking about a couple of teams in the NFL were going to ditch the playbooks now, and they're all going to go to these Apple iPads, man. Can you imagine that? Everything going to be electronically communicated.
You know what? I'm honestly surprised that it's taking this long because I saw that happening as soon as I seen the iPad coming out. You know, video, number one, is a lot more influential than being able to say, okay, like X's and O's. If you can actually show a player, like, okay, this is the play that we're talking about right here. Last time you did this, but if this time you do this, like, come on, bro. Like, this is, I mean, this is where the game is going. This is where everything is going. There's going to be that much more, you know, as far as exercising and getting things right, as far as from the first half to the second half. You're not even going to have to wait that long for adjustments now. You know, I'm in favor of it. I want to see it happen, you know what I mean, because you know, that technology, it should be able to work in sports as well, not just with just people just, you know, doing social media network stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I just can imagine the military encryption that's going to be required to keep guys like Bill Belichick from stealing the electronic communications going back and forth.
No, see, that's one thing you got to worry about, though. When that stuff gets tapped into, you know what I mean? Like, you know, because, I mean, these hackers, if they can get into Sony themselves and everything else like that, you think they won't be able to break down the team's access codes and things like that? So you got to be ultra careful with that as well.
Oh, absolutely. They'll be paying hacks to take right over. Hey, we're gonna take about a minute break, Anthony, and we're gonna come back. We're gonna talk a little bit more about the electronic communications, and then we're gonna get into some NFL draft. What do you think, man? You ready?
Let's do it.
We'll be back in about 1 minute with more of the Cleveland Sports 360 show. Our special guest tonight, Anthony Dorsett Jr., all the way from Dallas, Texas.
I tried to fall asleep, but I couldn't, so I rose and stumbled out the door to work and staggered down the road. And the rest of the day I wanted to explode because I've lost my faith in the human race. I wanna go to a different place. When I got home, I sat and stared into the television and wondered if this undisputed fact was fiction. And all I felt was evil creeping in because I've lost my faith in the human race. I wanna go to a different place. What you have done to me, shaking my beliefs.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cleveland Sports 360 show. Our special guest all the way from Dallas, Texas tonight, Anthony Dorsett Jr. Before the break, we were talking to Anthony about the Bounty Gate, Gregg Williams, electronic communications coming within the NFL now, eavesdropping, spying, cheating, you name it, we discussed it. So, hey, Anthony, we got the NFL draft coming up in a couple of nights, and I know you guys have been working real hard. Tell us a little bit. You're involved with Neurosport with Kip Watson, and you're training and assessing athletes getting ready for the NFL draft. What have you guys been doing to prepare for Thursday night, man?
Well, man, honestly, it's been more so like at this point of it, you know, if a guy has a workout, you know, this late in the game, you know, some guys are still working out, but this week right here is more or less making sure the guys are on point with the communication as far as making sure that everyone has the numbers out, if of course, if they're going to be free agents or if they're going to be drafted in that process, making sure that, you know, that in this last week that they've done everything as far as dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And from this point on here, man, it's really all up to them with everything that they've done as far as their film and their preparation, and just hoping and praying to the team, because all it takes is one, that one of these teams likes them enough to take them.
So you guys worked real hard to get these athletes to this point right where they're at now, and you guys were involved with some sports agents and everything else. Like we talked with Kip, and we had Mook Williams on the phone.
Yeah.
So you guys got some of their people all set and ready. Give us a little bit about the preparation or how you get these guys ready. What do you guys do, man?
Well, you know, with the Neurosport thing, that's all what deals with a lot of mental testing and stuff like that. The whole Neurosport thing will, you know, of course, show you, you know, your strengths and your weaknesses and stuff like that in certain areas. But then it also gives us an insight to, you know, of course, like how you think in pressure situations as well, you know. And so that part of it is done through Neurosport. Then, of course, you have the physical side of it, you know, where it takes the actual training, doing your stuff, working out, running, getting ready for the drills that take place at the combine, these workouts and things like that. So, you know, like it is the game is so cerebral now these days that you just can't be out there just a physical specimen, just thinking that you're going to capitalize and keep on winning and stuff like that. You actually have to break this game down. So, you know, being able to help guys out on the physical side and the mental side is just going to make these guys much more better, well-rounded athletes at the end of the day.
So when you're done with all the assessments and helping getting these guys a tailor-made training regime that they kind of stick to, are you done with them at that point, or do these guys come back and stick with Neurosport throughout their career? Tell us how that works, Anthony.
No, pretty much, once you invest in someone, and especially if it's a young man or a young athlete, and you take on the process of either being a mentor for these people or, their trainer or whatever the case may be, however they ever need you to facilitate, once you develop these relationships, then, hopefully and prayerfully it's a long-lasting relationship. Now, at the end of the day, if the athlete chooses to change his direction or her direction, and go in a different route, then that's just something that you have to respect and have to go with. But, these are typically relationships that you start that would be long-lasting relationships at the end of the day. If you're doing your part and you're facilitating them in the way that they need to be helped out, then they'll be happy with you. You know what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
No, we don't want to just try to, jump in bed with these guys, so to say, and then get right back out. No, you definitely want to be able to monitor these guys, watch them grow, make sure that they're doing the guidelines and following their whole regiment, to be a successful player.
So, Anthony, you being a former NFL player and coming out of college and being drafted, what is the biggest thing that a guy has to do to make the transition from the college ranks to the NFL, man? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, there's a number of things that are going to change. First of all, the first thing that I learned my first year was, like the speed of the game. Number one, the speed of the game is definitely going to pick up for a lot of guys. So that's going to be the first thing. Then you got to take into consideration you're going to have some kids getting drafted that are going to be 20 years old, 21 years old, out there playing against guys who are 30, 31 years old. So, the strength of the game is also something, depending on what position you play, is something that you have to adjust to as well. And then, just the whole side of preparation, the hours that you put into it. I mean, the whole thing is just something that just goes to a complete another level. So, there are so many facets of this game that people only look at just what happens on the field. But, the meetings, the preparation, the learning how to play football, learning how to play at the next level, your leverage, your proper leverage. In college you get graces. You can get away with certain things because, hey, there's really, you're not getting paid for that. You know what I mean? So you have a learning curve.
Right.
In the NFL, once you start getting paid, man, you got to come in here and you got to start producing.
Now, what about
right now?
Do you guys train the guys on the different levels of groupies?
Say that again?
Do you train the guys on the different levels of groupies? I mean, there's. Are you telling me about that? Because it's a whole nother level, right?
Well, a lot of times, that's a lot of trial and error because, every guy thinks he's going to be cool enough to get some women. So at the end of the day, it's very competitive in locker rooms. You guys have to understand that, not just from the sports side of it. You got a bunch of A-type guys in the locker room. You know what I mean? Who all think like they're the guy. So a lot of times, you can talk to guys about, the groupies and about certain situations and stuff like that. But come on, Kenya, just like I know, man. You go tell a dude, hey, that's not what you want to do. But sometimes you can't get through to that guy. Remember that song Poison? You can't trust a big butt and smile. So sometimes guys are hard-headed. You know what I mean? But on the levels of groupies, once you're in that locker room, like, you're going to have those few girls who are only looking for those certain guys. But for the most part, man, once you step out there, it's game time.
There you have it, man. I mean, there's one for everybody, I'm sure, Kenyon. But
Yes,
but Anthony, when you get the speed difference from the college to the NFL, that's one thing that always impressed me because you hear it so many times. These guys are so great, but they've never stepped foot on an NFL field, man. And one thing that always cracked me up, and I know everybody wants to get the best buck they can in their contract, but what kills me is when you had a guy that used to hold out and not even come to training camp or anything, he already falls behind, and he wants more money before he ever took one snap at a football, man. So let me just ask you, you got probably Andrew Luck going as the #1 draft pick, and RG3 obviously #2. Unless it goes the other way around and you see RG3 go to the Colts and then Luck goes to Washington. I don't bank on anything until it's done. Are these guys capable of walking off the college field onto the NFL field, whether it be Andrew Luck or RG3, and running a professional football team's offense the way Peyton Manning did?
Now, you got to understand, now, as a team and as an organization, when you draft a kid like, say, RG3 or Andrew Luck, you have to also do some changes as well because, now, RG3 and Andrew Luck, they're not Peyton Manning. So their intangibles, they may not have the same exact intangibles that Peyton Manning had. So it would do a team good to, as well as, fit the offense around the talent that you have. Okay? Don't try to bring this guy in here, try to force a circle into a square. All right? Meaning, you got Andrew Luck, very cerebral player. He's not the type of guy who runs the ball a whole lot. So you're not going to put him in the same situations you would put a Tim Tebow in. Okay? So, you have to build the team's strengths around the quarterback strengths as well. Now, with that being said, either one of these guys can step off the college field right now and go play in the NFL. Now what's going to happen when they get there, of course they're going to have to play. But just looking at the past drafts and looking at the past players from Cam Newton to Matt Stafford to the kid down in Jacksonville, I named 2 guys who've had a lot of success, and then I name another guy who's had his ups and downs. It just comes with the territory.
Yeah,
so, these guys
Cam
are not
Newton really did an exceptional job making the transition, man.
Yeah,
I think the rest of the team in Cam Newton's camp was a little bit behind. If he would have had a little bit more of a supporting staff, who the heck knows what the Panthers would have been able to pull off this year, or last year.
Definitely. So it's these guys between RG3, Luck, if those offense coordinators do things to help their players out, get them comfortable in their schemes, use some terminology that they're used to, a couple plays that they've run for a number of years, just give them places they feel comfortable and to feel like, at home with it. It will help the progress and help the process of the learning curve as well.
You got the Colts. They made won 2 games last year. The entire team isn't even going to be close to what it was when Peyton Manning was there. And Luck's going to definitely step into a little bit of a quagmire because he doesn't have the same talent that Peyton Manning had, #1. #2, as you just explained, he's definitely not Peyton Manning. The Colts definitely have to do some rebuilding. Off the cuff, Anthony, what do you really see the Colts being able to do in 2012, man?
Well, I'm optimistic for them, of course. I hope that they have a better season than what they had last year. Not just for the sake of the guys, but for the sake of the organization as well. Some of those guys who are on that team are still my friends and stuff like that. And so, you just hate to see anybody go through that type of season because losing is so much of a cancer that it can destroy you and kill you from the inside. Yeah. But, I'm hoping that they actually do better than they did last year. And, like I said, I'm optimistic. I hope that Andrew Luck comes in and, if they can make it to the playoffs in his first year, that would be awesome. If not, just to have a winning season or come close to it, and just to show some progress for the team and for the organization going into the next few years.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, man. At least to get a little bit of stability under his belt the first season. We're gonna take a little bit more of a break here. 1 more minute, Anthony. We'll come back. We'll talk some more NFL draft with Anthony Dorsett down in Dallas, Texas right now. He's with Neurosport. They do all kinds of athletic assessments. He's got a great partner he works with Kip Watson. We had her on a couple of weeks ago. Anthony was in the middle of training an athlete, and that's why he's joining us tonight. We'll be right back with more of Anthony Dorsett right here on the Cleveland Sports 360 show, coming at you live from streamingsportstalk.com.
The only thing that's probably leaving no one else can see is inside
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cleveland Sports 360 show. Joining us live all the way from Dallas, Texas, is the one and only Anthony Dorsett Jr. Anthony, you still with us, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here.
How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good. Hey, everybody out there listening, you can follow me on Twitter at DorsettJr.com. That's at DORSETTJR at Dorsett Jr. on Twitter.
Give a shout out to your Facebook page too, Anthony.
Oh yeah, my Facebook page is Anthony Dorsett Jr., the Anthony Dorsett Jr. Health Spectacular, the Dorsett Roundtable. Just put my name in there on Facebook. I got several different pages as well. And the Anthony Dorsett website soon to be coming back up as well.
Now the Dorsett Roundtable, you did some things with your dad, right?
Right. That's a show that basically it's a sports lifestyle show that I put together. And actually, last year Fox picked it up as a Super Bowl special as well. We are in talks about turning it into like a series, though, also. So, hopefully, by the fall, one of the networks will be then picked it up, and it won't just be a Super Bowl special. It'll be something that goes on throughout the football season, also.
So when you get your own special, let us know. Kenyon and I will fly down and join you for an episode. That'd be a lot of fun.
If you're paying for the flight, if you pay for the flight, Dorsett, I'll be there.
All right, that's what it is. We're going to have a nice party, too.
You know we don't have no money, man. You know that, man.
Listen to this.
Well, that might be a problem.
Hey, give a shout out to Neurosport while we have you, too. How do they get a hold of Neurosport, Anthony?
Man, you can go to Neurosport. Of course, with Kip, you go to Kip. You can find Kip at neurosport.com. I wish I had all this stuff right here in front of me right now to blast her off, but you can follow her at Kip Fit on Twitter as well, KIPFIT.
Well, that pretty much sums it up. Kip Fit at Twitter, and neurosport.com on the web. So, Anthony, now we got through the top 2 draft picks. Have you looked at the Cleveland Browns lately? I mean, did you pay any attention to this team? Do you see...
Yeah, I paid a little bit of attention. I know the whole situation with Colt up there and everything else like that. And, I've just been paying attention to some of the stuff that's going on. I know that the team has pretty much been in a rough situation for a number of years now, just trying to get some things right up there. And,
defensively,
I have paid attention, but, I can't sit up here and tell you guys that Cleveland is my favorite team.
No, I wouldn't even expect you to say that. But I'm thinking defensively, we pretty much have that handled. Offensively, we have a lot of problems that need to be addressed. Do you see anybody in particularly, other than a quarterback, offensively in this upcoming draft that could really help the Cleveland Browns?
Well, they're really talking about you guys, needing a running game, a solid running game. Also to take some of the pressure off of the quarterback, regardless if it's Colt or if it's someone else that they may draft or bring in there, whatever the situation may be. So I know there's been a lot of talk about the young man out of Alabama, the running back, maybe that situation there. Of course, with all the different quarterback situations that have been popping up, from Tannehill to, a few other guys who are climbing the charts here late, but I'm not the type of person to say that Colt McCoy cannot do it. I know he can win. He won at the college level as well. But you have to get some things to go around him also. You can't just put it all on the quarterback. He needs to have a good tight end. He needs to have a good running back. He needs to have at least one good solid receiver and things like that. So, all the pieces of the puzzle have to come together. But
like I said, this
draft is so heavy.
Is it too late to get the pads back on Tony Dorsett? He's done, right? He doesn't want to play football anymore, huh?
No, I'm pretty sure that's a wrap. I don't think that he wants any more of that contact.
And definitely not in the Cleveland Browns uniform, probably either.
No, man, no. But I do remember him having to play against those guys at Dog Pound back in the day when I was a kid.
Oh, absolutely. I remember the Cowboys and the Browns. There was some great battles back in those days, man. So, back to the Cleveland Browns. If Colt McCoy really did win some football games at college, and he definitely needs a supporting cast. I really think that the Browns may lean towards the defense in this draft, Anthony. There's a lot of talk about taking Claiborne as a a cornerback. What's your thoughts on this Claiborne kid? Did you get a chance to look at him at all?
Yeah, man, I think that he's like, if not the top corner, one of the definitely top corners coming out. Anytime you have a kid with that type of skill set, you know, at the cornerback position, you know, you just can't pass up a lockdown corner. Though it is too hard to find. You know what I mean? Everybody wishes they had that type of player who could take away one side of the field for them, much like Darrelle Revis has done for the Jets, you know, and like how Charles Woodson has done for years, Champ Bailey, you know, and a lot of these younger players like Naki and the Flowers kid out of Kansas City as well. You know, so you always want to try to find a guy who has that skill set who can definitely match up against any of these receivers and help your defense out so much. So, you know, I'm a fan of that guy, of Claiborne's. I've watched him play. I'm a fan of the LSU secondary and the Alabama secondary as well. So I don't think that any of those, between those starting 4 guys on each team, you can go wrong in either area.
Yeah, and that's an area you have a little bit of expertise in yourself, so being in the secondary all those years. So you really have a lot of faith in this Claiborne that he can come in and do the job in the NFL, and he'll be a great
man, without question. And you know, if anyone tries to bring up that whole, I think the Wonderlic situation that he had where people were talking about that.
Right.
I mean,
right.
if anyone out there has ever seen the Wonderlic or taken the Wonderlic, they know that this is not a test that should be given to athletes and assessing them and how their mentality is while they're breaking down plays. It just doesn't make sense.
I think they ought to start coming up with a test to test the people who are giving these tests out, man.
I think they shouldn't have the test. I don't want to take a test when I'm about to get $1 million. Who the hell wants to take this test? I wouldn't study for it.
Well, you know, there's no way to actually study for the Wonderlic anyway. There's just ways to teach you how to take that test. You know, but there's no way to really study for that. You don't, you know, the questions that are on there, when you're running to a quarterback to try to sack a quarterback, you're not trying to count apples and do equations.
I got to ask you a question, man, and this is nothing that we're pretty much talking about today, but since I got a former NFL player on right now, I got to get an answer because I asked several professionals this, and no one, I mean, some people, they toil around the question, but why is it that there's age requirements on the NBA and the NFL draft, but it's not the same as golf, as tennis, as Major League Baseball? Why is it just the NBA and the NFL?
I mean, I can't speak for the NBA, but I can speak on the NFL and the amount of collisions that we have and the way that your body has to mature at some level. So, you know, that being said, you know, I definitely think that there needs to be some type of age limit because, you know, with the way the NBA was structured, you know, you can come right out of high school before the past few years and go right into the NBA. You know, just take into consideration you have a kid that's 17 years old that may be graduating, and they feel like he's a phenom and can go into the NBA. Well, put a 17-year-old football player on the field with up against a 330-pound, 30-year-old guy who's played 10 years, and like, come on. You know what I mean?
And then he throws a run-on test shot at you.
Yeah, there has to be some prerequisites to this game. You know what I mean? We play one of the most physical games, if not the most physical game out there.
So it's definitely a little different than golf, huh, Anthony?
Oh, come on.
I'm kidding you, man. You know I'm kidding you. Yeah, I mean, you know, your body does have to mature a little bit. And like you said, I mean, just the stuff you can learn in 10 years, coming out of college in the NFL for 10 years, you're going to learn ways to make things easier on yourself and harder on the guy you're trying to hit, too. So I don't think these young guys could take it yet, man.
No, definitely. You know, I was telling a story the other day. I saw a guy get hit when I was playing for the Raiders and actually cry on the sideline, not because he got hurt, but because it hurt. You know what I mean? And, you know, no, seriously, you know what I mean? And it happens, you know, like, this game is a totally different situation when you get up there and, you know, you're a young kid coming into the game and you're playing against a man who has kids and a wife at home and you know, and right now you're just still playing because you love to play and it hasn't turned into a job yet for you. So there's a totally different thing between grown man strength and just being strong, and you guys know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, man. Hey, let me ask you a question. You went on to the Jets for a second. You just mentioned them in passing. What do you think the effect of Tim Tebow in the New York Jets locker room is going to have on the team this coming season?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't understand, the reason for that. If you're going to get a backup quarterback, just me, if I was building the team, I would upgrade or at least have a quarterback that was, if not better, or be able to push my first team quarterback. Now, statistically, I know that between Sanchez and Tebow, statistically, they were in the two of the worst when it comes to passing efficiency and everything else like that. So at the end of the day, I don't know what the Jets were actually trying to do, if it was more or less for ticket sales or if it was more or less just for, the whole attention thing to go along with it, jersey sales or whatever. But, I just don't agree with the whole thing. Between Sanchez and Tebow, if Mark goes down, are you looking at Tim Tebow to come in and throw the ball 30 times a game? No, we've already seen he can't do that.
Well, I heard he was working on his passing this off season and was getting some serious coaching help. Did you hear anything like that, Anthony?
I've heard that since he was in Florida.
Well, is this something that he can't pick up on or what, man?
I think that it's something that he can definitely be coached up on, but I don't think it's anything that is going to take place over a matter of 2 to 3 years. Learned behavior, one thing, is something that's very hard to change, and learned behavior amongst people. Scientifically, that is proven. And then at the end of the day, whenever it gets pressure time, and you fall back, whenever
right back to your old habits, right?
And you fall back on old habits just naturally. Not trying to, but, it just naturally happens. So, it's a situation. I would never say that Tim Tebow cannot do it, because I have a strong faith in God as well, and I know that God can make anything happen. But I just don't think that it's going to be something that is going to happen like that fast.
Yeah, I was a little bit wondering what the hell's going to happen up there in New York. I mean, there was a little bit of disarray in the locker room last season, especially at the end of the year. I don't think Mark Sanchez had the same respect of his players that he had at the beginning of the season, at the end of the season. And now you bring Tim Tebow into the equation. I mean, I just don't know what's going to happen up there, man.
I just don't think that Sanchez, to be perfectly honest with you, and I'm just looking at it from the outside in, I don't think that he's ever had the total command and had that whole team behind him like that in the first place. So, it's just one of those type of situations where, like I said earlier, if you're going to bring someone in to help push him, bring in someone else that is actually going to help push him. You know what I mean?
So do you think that Rex Ryan has a hand in some of this? I mean, I've talked to former coaches. I had the honor of having Coach Sam Ritigliano with me about 3 weeks ago, and I actually picked him up, so I drove with him for about 40 minutes each way. And I spent quite a bit of time talking to Coach Sam Ritigliano, who actually coached with Buddy Ryan back in the day. And he said the entire Ryan family has a tendency to run their mouths in such a situation that it's going to be rough. And he was wondering, Coach Ritigliano was wondering how Rex Ryan is going to handle the running of his mouth with Tim Tebow being there now, because obviously that Tim Tebow puts his faith on his cuff, and he's not going to change, man.
Well, I'm sure that Coach Ryan is not going to change as well. So that's just something that comes along with it. You can look at their dad from back in the day. He was a guy that was out there, and he was going to say whatever was on his mind. He was going to do what he wanted to do. So, I just think that, if the success rate doesn't match the amount of talk that you're doing, you got to shut up. You can't talk about it. You got to be about it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think that, the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree in the Ryan family. That's the way those boys were brought up. That's the way those boys are going to live their lives. And I just think it adds to the turmoil of the team. I think that's what stopped Rob Ryan from becoming a head coach in the NFL so far. I don't think, in Dallas, I don't know how good he's doing as the defensive coordinator. What his relationship?
I haven't met a guy who hasn't liked to play for Coach Rob Ryan.
Right, I know.
To a man, every guy that I know that's played in his defense loves his defense and loves him.
Right, but there's something that's keeping him from the head coaching job, don't you think, Anthony?
Well, it's it's one of those kind of funny things with the NFL. You know, you could have a mediocre coach that gets, you know, that keeps getting recirculated. You know, I mean, you see coaches who are losing coaches, and they keep getting jobs, but, you know, they still, you know, they still losing coaches. Whereas you may have a player who has an average year on terms of his playing ability, and you may never see that guy in another uniform again. So, you know, it's a funny thing when you sit back and you watch it as a player, and you're like, man, this coach couldn't coach his way out of a paper bag, but he keeps getting jobs.
Well, let's hope we don't have one of those kind of coaches on the Cleveland Browns, man. You know, last year we weren't too impressed with the head coach that we have, and it's going to...
We've already had 5 of them since '99, man.
Right. Yeah, there comes a time when you have to stop changing, man, so hopefully this is going to be that time, although I haven't seen anything to make me think this is definitely the guy yet. So I'm a little worried about that. So, Anthony, what's your plans? The draft's coming up Thursday. You guys got any big athletes out there you expect to go?
Man, honestly, you know, you can never honestly just say, okay, between those top 5 to 10 picks that you know what is going to happen. You know, so at the end of the day, you know, guys get slotted in a particular area. Of course, you hope that it goes the way it's supposed to, but, you know, it's one of those kind of situations. You know, things change in the last minute. You know, a guy may get drafted that a team had in their scope, and then right then and there they have to go to the next best player on their board, and then from there it could throw off everyone's board. So, you know, it's never any way just to sit back and say, okay, we definitely know these guys are going to go here, go there. All we can do is be prayerful and optimistic for them, and just hope that the opportunity presents itself and they're ready to go.
Now, in Anthony Dorsett's mind, do you have your top 10 picks? I mean, do you have who you would think would go as the first top 10 guys in the NFL draft, man? Do you have your own?
You know what, man?
Anthony?
I honestly never get that detailed with it. You know what I mean? Because it's just one of those type of things that there is so much going into it, and it is so hard to get so much information on everyone. You know, but like at the end of the day, of course, I have to. As much as I hate to do this, you know, I pretty much just got to ride with Todd McShay and Mel Kiper, who are supposed to be experts in the field, but you know. I don't know how the experts said it. I guess I could become an expert at listening to country music if I listen to it long enough and, you know, just start critiquing those guys. But, you know, I can't sing a country note to save my life.
Absolutely.
But, you know, it's one of those kind of things where, honestly, I sit back. You know, I have a couple buddies who are scouts. You know, I pick their brains on it. But, you know, I'm just as much as a fan of the draft as you guys probably are. And, you know, I just really like to get caught up in it and watch and see who goes, and for it to be as much a surprise for me as it is for the young men.
Well, that's the thing, too. Like you just mentioned a few minutes ago, anything can happen, anything can change, and one guy gets off the board that you thought was going to be there when it was your turn to pick. Like you said, I mean, it's like domino effect. It can throw off everybody's board all the way down the line. So, like you said.
Like the kid from Nebraska who just got caught up over the weekend for getting in a fight with a cop.
Right.
Now, you don't know where he was at on some people's board, you know, but right now they've got a character issue about this kid all of a sudden. You know what I mean? So, you know, you never know. Now people are looking like, okay, well, he was maybe, say, my number 2, number 3 corner on the board, so now we got to drop him down. So, you know.
Well, Oakland would take that guy in a heartbeat, don't you think?
You know what? You know, Reggie, the new GM out there, Reggie McKenzie, you know, he's cleaned house a lot out there. And that whole Raider mystique as far as, you know, being the bad guy image and everything else like that, I think a lot of that is coming to an end, you know, and it's more or less about commitment to excellence and just win, baby, for real. So at the end of the day, you know, the Raiders, I think, are definitely on some new stuff, headed in a new direction, a new positive direction, and they're ready to win. And I don't think that anyone out there is going to tolerate any more of the, you know, the nonsense or anything else like that as well. No more eyesores to the organization.
So that's it. The days of the outlaw is going to be vanished.
Hey, man, you can't, you know, this game deals with a lot of character as well. You know what I mean? And so if you're going to make someone the face of your organization or invest that much into them to change their livelihood, you hope at the same time that they're willing to go on board and accept the responsibility and man up about it and do what they're asked to do.
Yeah, I can see where the game's changing, especially with, I guess it comes down to money, Anthony. When you pay this kind of money and you expect to charge this kind of money for the fan to come to a game, you definitely have to rely on character more nowadays than you did, let's say, back in the 60s and the 70s. Would you think that's a fair assessment?
Oh yeah, the game has changed. This is not guys out here making a couple $1,000s and because back in the day when guys were playing football, they played ball and they had regular jobs as well.
Right.
But we know now that this game can change the livelihood of the player and generations to come now. So this is big business. So right now these people are definitely not going to throw $1 million into your bank account for you to go out there and stink up the house.
Well, I don't think that they should either, man. And like you said, I mean, it can change a life, and everything can be different from here on in. We're going to have to end this show tonight, Anthony. I really want to thank you so much for joining us once again on the Cleveland Sports 360 show. Really talk to your dad. It would be real interesting to get you guys both to do a show maybe in a couple of weeks or so after the draft, and everybody gets settled in, and we'll see what's happening. It'd be an interesting look to see from then and now. I mean, even in the generation difference from your life playing football to your father's life playing football, the game changed quite a bit in those years too, wouldn't you think?
Oh yeah, man. We were me and my father were actually in the process of writing a book a couple of years ago, and it was called Through Our Eyes, and it was just going to be it was going to be a walk through my NFL career and his NFL career. Of course, him being a Heisman Trophy winner, first-round draft pick, and me coming in the game in the back door being a 6th-round draft pick and playing in 2 Super Bowls and lasting for 8 years. And the way that we were doing it, it was through an interview process, and neither one of us got interviewed together at the same time, so we never knew what each other's answers were going to be or anything else like that. So hopefully and prayerfully we'll get back on it. We'll finish that book sometime soon, and honestly give people just a different view as to what it's like. Number one, being father-son tandem, and then number two, the walk of a Heisman Trophy winner, and then the walk of a 6th-round draft pick, trying to prove yourself and just make it.
Well, I would say you were definitely successful at proving yourself. You played a number of years, and like you said, 2 Super Bowls. I mean, there's a lot of guys that played this game that never stepped foot on a Super Bowl field. So congratulations to you. You were very successful, if you want my opinion, and that takes a lot right there, man. But like I said, thanks a lot for joining us once again, Anthony. It was a pleasure, as always. And I'll throw this show on your Facebook wall later on tonight, and you'll be able to view it anytime you want to see it, man. You want to give a shout-out to anybody else while we got you, man?
Hey, man, I appreciate you, LG. I want to send a shout-out to everybody, all my family in the Ohio area. Got family in Steubenville, Ohio, a little family in Cleveland, everywhere else, and then anybody in the Pennsylvania area, of course, Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, and some family in Weirton, West Virginia, and all over Ohio like that as well. Wheeling, Ohio, Steubenville, like I said a minute ago. And I just want to send a shout-out to my man Kenyon over there, boy. Appreciate you, dog.
No doubt.
Great work.
No doubt, player.
Hey, let me tell you, when you coming up here, man? When you coming up to Cleveland?
Let me say something. My boy Buster Tillman's out there, Michael Tillman, Ohio State alumni. You know what I'm saying? Thanks for listening again, homie, to all my people up there and everything else. I'll be coming back Midwest, the East Coast area in the next few months here. So hopefully, definitely I'll be in PA. So if I'm around the area, you guys give me a good reason to come to Ohio, I'll be there.
You come on down. We'll put you right here next to me on the show, man.
Let's do it.
We'll do it. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Anthony Dorsett Jr., all the way from Dallas, Texas, right here on another edition of the Cleveland Sports 360 Show. Coming up next at the 7 o'clock p.m. hour, it's our man, Kenyon Johnson, Christian Patterson, and the beautiful Miss Kenya Huff on unsportsmanlike conduct. And don't forget, Thursday night, 7 p.m., it is the ultimate in NFL draft parties right here at Winners, down around the back in the Omni building off of Euclid Avenue in beautiful Euclid, Ohio. We'll see you next week with another edition of the Cleveland Sports 360 Show. God bless everybody.